Welcome, welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's conversation on innovative scholarship models and how they are helping more students get to and through college. We will begin our session shortly.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Paul Perrault, Senior Vice President of Community Impact and Learning at Helios Education Foundation, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to Beyond Financial Support, a webinar on innovative scholarships for impact. In today's webinar, we'll provide a first look at Helios's research brief on innovative scholarships. Additionally, we're excited to welcome two representatives from institutions providing scholarships, as well as two scholarship recipients who are proving that personal programs with students' full needs in mind, academic, financial, and personal, are driving positive student outcomes. In addition to myself, we have a great line of speakers today, including Paul Luna, President and CEO of the Helios Education Foundation, Kimberly Lent Morales, Director of Research and Evaluation at the Helios Education Foundation, Dr. Stephen Gonzales, the Chancellor for Maricopa Community Colleges, might I add, one of the largest community college systems in the nation, serving more than 100,000 students, Dr. Bridgette Cram, Vice President, Academic Affairs, Student Success Operations and Integrated Planning at Florida International University, again, a top public university in Florida with a student body of more than 54,000 students. Jay Vasquez Eldago, a Phoenix Promise Program scholarship recipient attending South Mountain Community College in Arizona, and Eduardo Mesa, a Helios Last Mile scholarship recipient and graduate from Florida International University. Just a few housekeeping units and notes as we begin. Today's webinar will run for approximately an hour. We'll save time at the end for live Q&A, so please drop your questions into the Q&A box at any time, and we'll get to them toward the end of the webinar. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and for that, you'll receive an advanced copy of our new research brief that will be released tomorrow, but you get to see it first. We'll share that link in the brief in the chat toward the end of the webinar. But now, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Helios's President and CEO, Paul Luna.
Thank you, Dr. Perrault. Appreciate that introduction, and let me just begin by thanking our speakers as well for joining us and part of this webinar, and to thank all of you for joining us today. I believe we have over 400 participants who have signed up to be part of this webinar, and I think that's a testament to the timeliness of today's conversation and all of your commitments to supporting students and engaging on how we can all better support our students to educational success. As we mark our 20th anniversary year here at Helios Education Foundation, Helios remains committed to supporting post-secondary attainment for all students, with a focus on low-income students and historically underrepresented students in both Arizona and Florida. And we do not do this work alone. As a community impact organization, we collaborate with partners like yourselves, many of you who are joining us today, to improve student outcomes across the entire education continuum. I do also want to acknowledge that we have, all of you are special guests, but I want to make sure that I acknowledge 3 of our board members here at Helios who provide leadership and guidance and direction to the entire organization. Donna Ripley, Mark Fernandez, and Larry Rice are joining us to participate in this discussion this morning as well. And we want to thank them as we thank all of you. And at Helios, we concentrate our efforts on 3 key drivers. How do we ensure our students are reading proficiency by the end of 3rd grade? How do we go about supporting our students to increase college enrollments? And how do we boost attainment of some type of post-secondary education success, but in particular 2- and 4-year college degrees? By addressing these areas, we aim to accelerate the pace of change and close opportunity gaps that continue to persist for too many of our students in our education system today. That's why our newest research report, Beyond Financial Support, we believe is so important. Our own work at Helios over 20 years has always been grounded in scholarship, and that's been a testament to the commitment of our board of directors from the very beginning. And since inception, we have provided nearly $50 million in scholarship support to over 46,000 students along the way. So we understand the importance of these programs and engaging in scholarships with students, but we know that there's always a way to do it better. So today's session is designed to give partners, scholarship providers, education leaders, research-based insights and proven practices to better inform programs, strengthen systems of support, and ultimately increase student success. Amidst an ever-changing climate and threats to the value of education, I want to thank you for your commitment to this important work and hope that you find today's session both valuable and inspiring. So thank you again for joining us, and I'd like to turn the program back over to Dr. Paul Perrault to explore the research and the insights.
Thank you, Paul. Before we dive into key findings of the report, I wanted to spend just a few moments discussing the higher education landscape. At Helios, we are well aware of the current challenges in scholarship giving, but mostly we're excited about the new opportunities that lie ahead. We know that many students, especially those from low-income or rural backgrounds, are still struggling to catch up in a post-pandemic environment. This is most where scholarships can be used strategically, not just to support students financially, but to actively re-engage them in education before they really slip through the cracks and we don't get them back. At the same time, our economy is shifting fast, and we need to keep up. We're seeing massive changes in the workforce with AI, automation, and other new demands. Scholarships today can mean more access to college. They can be tools for aligning education with where the jobs are going. We know that by targeting scholarships to critical fields like healthcare, technology, cybersecurity, and others, we can help students prepare for what's next and help communities thrive in Arizona, in Florida, and across the country. At Helios, we believe that innovative scholarships are a game changer. And I can see a lot of people asking, well, how? Well, number one, empowering students goes beyond tuition. That's old ways of looking at scholarships. Today's most effective scholarships go far beyond financial aid. They wrap students in support, mentoring, emergency funds, peer networks, and give them the confidence to persist and thrive. Number two, innovative scholarships can be catalysts for opportunity and completion. Innovative models help close long-standing opportunity gaps. By recognizing each learner's journey, they improve not only access, but they also improve persistence and graduation rates, especially for first-gen, low-income, and historically underrepresented students, the students who are really trying to connect with more. And third, innovative scholarships are designed for today, but built for tomorrow. These models embrace flexibility and meet students where they are right now. This isn't about fixing an old system. It's about building a better one from the ground up. Now, the road is pivotal. Now is a time to lead boldly. We have the tools, the insights, and the urgency to act. Innovative scholarships are not just about funding education. They're about designing systems that support every student's potential. Innovative scholarships can lead to high impact, real returns that we can see. When we act with intention, guided by data, we create ripple effects that benefit students, families, and communities. And at Helios, we want these returns not only to benefit Arizona and Florida, but every state in this country. Together, we can redefine what's possible. This is a moment to be optimistic, because when we align vision with action and innovation, we don't just improve higher education. We do what we say we want to do at Helios all the time. We transform lives. So as we look toward what's possible, it's also essential that we ground our innovation in insight. At Helios, we spend a lot of time supporting bold ideas, but we also evaluate them. We learn from them, and we use that learning to refine and strengthen our impact. With that, I'm excited to turn it over to Kimberly Lent-Morales, Director of our Research and Evaluation team, who will walk us through the key findings from our latest research insights that illuminate both promise and the potential of Innovate scholarships to drive real, measurable change. Kimberly?
Thanks so much, Paul. I'm excited to share some of the highlights from our research brief today, Beyond Financial Support. And this is an update and expansion of a brief that we previously released in 2017, really digging into this innovative scholarship model. But in this version, we're going even deeper to look at how institutional and private scholarship providers are moving beyond that traditional model that Paul talked about. We're going to highlight some examples of scholarship programs that pair funding with smart program design and wraparound supports, and those strategies that they're using to increase access, persistence, and completion for students. And ultimately, this brief is intended to support scholarship providers, foundations, and policymakers as they're looking to design, refine programs that are sustainable and responsiveness to what students need. So to start off with a little bit of the evidence as to why scholarships. So despite various designs, the research is really consistent in showing that scholarships work to improve student outcomes, whether we're looking at enrollment, credit accumulation, persistence, or degree completion. In fact, one of the citations that we have in this report is a meta-analysis from 2024 that looks at over 86 studies covering 7.6 million students, and it confirmed these findings. So one of the biggest studies that we've ever seen are showing all these great results. And because scholarships are often more flexible than other forms of aid, they're really great at filling gaps that are left behind after students have applied federal and state grants. And again, the flexibility and impact of scholarships, they continue to be a critical tool, especially for students who come from low income backgrounds, first generation, and those who are most affected by even the modest, smallest changes in college affordability. So with that in mind, the key premise of this brief is to show that while scholarships are good and they continue to help students succeed, the design of scholarships matter. So how programs are structured, looking at things like eligibility, the disbursement schedules, to the inclusion of types of student supports, these factors can dramatically affect the impact of scholarship programs. And today we're seeing that the most effective programs are those that intentionally combine financial support with strong program design. So that means that being really clear about who this program serves, what barriers we're trying to address, and how students are supported from the start of their college career all the way to the finish line. So for us, we're keeping a few considerations in mind as we created this brief and walking you through the findings today. So one is making sure that we understand the financial aid system. So we know that these systems are complex. People make whole careers of just understanding financial aid. So making sure that when we design scholarships, that we're understanding the system, keeping it in mind, and not presenting any additional barriers to access or completion that might hinder students from getting access to aid. Second, while financial support through scholarships, it is crucial for many students, programs are most effective when they are designed intentionally to support a specific student need. And there's an increased recognition of the importance of providing additional supports along with great money that comes along with traditional scholarships. The third is that while program models are diverse in scope, they all share a common goal, whether it's to increase college access, persistence, or completion. And oftentimes they do target specific student populations like those who are first generation, low income, or from historically underrepresented backgrounds in higher education. And fourth, the program impacts and efficacy are influenced by different factors. So it's not one size fits all. When we're looking at different factors that might impact efficacy, things like visibility of the scholarship, eligibility criteria, the award design, and any administrative requirements that come along. And then some of those boosts that we go along with it, like wraparound supports that we're going to talk about, things like advising, support to complete a FAFSA, and mentoring. So for the purposes of this brief in our webinar, we sent around 4 basic models. The first is wraparound supports, performance-based scholarships, place-based or promise scholarships, and then completion or last mile grants. And throughout the brief, we're going to go through, and the presentation today, we go through some of the core design elements, the primary goals, and the key features of these. But if you want to dig in more, we'll share the link to the report later on, and you can see that there. So to start off with, wraparound supports. So these models connect students with resources that they need to either enroll in college or succeed while they're in their program. And these programs combine financial aid services with things like academic advising, tutoring and coaching, career guidance, and ways to help students meet their basic needs while they're in school. And these programs show that layering personalized coaching or case management on top of a financial incentive through a scholarship significantly boosts persistence and completion. And we're finding that when we dig into the research, this model in particular is really critical for students who identify as first generation and students at community college programs. Next up is performance-based scholarships. So these programs, these programs link funding to academic progress. So usually in the form of looking at credit accumulation or GPA milestones. So these do differ from traditional merit-based aid programs that reward past success. So think about a GPA from high school. And instead, these models aim to encourage ongoing success when a student is in their degree or certificate program. They often do include things like student service supports, and award funds oftentimes will incrementally change as students make progress. So maybe they're getting more money up front because we know that those are the critical years to keep them in school. And then later on, perhaps the disbursements kind of diminish down. So while these programs can be powerful, one thing to keep in mind is to avoid them becoming overly burdensome with requirements. So when we think about especially students from low income background, first gen, who might not have the college going capital that other students do, making sure that we're not applying any additional barriers to making sure that they succeed and are able to continue to get their scholarship, but while still staying true to the core of performance-based scholarships. Next up is place-based and promise scholarships. This also includes free college programs. We're seeing that an increasing trend across the country. These are becoming increasingly popular as ways to approach reducing financial barriers for students. These will cover tuition and fees, and oftentimes when we think about the place-based model, they'll focus on a particular city, school district, or state, with the idea of making college more affordable and building a college-going culture within the community that an institution is housed. And effectiveness does vary depending on the design. So we call out two specific types. The first is first dollar programs, and then the also last dollar programs. First dollar programs are often more impactful, says the data, but they are more costly when it comes to what types of resource and investment does it take from a provider. Last dollar scholarships are more affordable, but the benefit might not be the same that it is for first dollar scholarships. But later on, we are going to feature a last dollar program that is showing some really great outcomes. So we'll have that to look forward to in a few minutes. The next one is emergency grants. So this, again, we're seeing increasing throughout the field. So oftentimes these are also called emergency grants, scholarships, micro grants, but these are really designed to help students through a specific financial emergency. Things like a car repair, a flat tire, a medical bill, housing disruption. We're also seeing this increase with different natural disasters, so hurricanes, wildfires. These awards are typically small, but they can make a huge difference when it comes to a student staying in school or dropping out. What we're finding in the literature is that timing is key. So making sure that for programs like this, that they really, we found that they work best when aid is provided quickly and with minimal red tape. And I think that makes sense, right? A student is in an emergency, they need money right away, and we don't want that to be the reason that they perhaps drop out of their program and we lose all their, incredible progress that they've made so far. So one thing that we do also want to mention is many institutions are looking at this beyond just dollars. And thinking about other ways that they can support students in emergencies, like vouchers for essentials. Many colleges and universities have food pantries on their campuses, so giving vouchers for things like that, or emergency access to those resources, or even emergency loans. The last model that we're going to talk about today are retention and completion models. So these are a little related to emergency aid in that they are intended to cover a small tuition or fee balance often, but more predictable than an emergency aid model. So these programs focus on students who are often close to finishing their degree but have face an unmet financial need that could stop them from graduating. Oftentimes we can see this as fee balances. So everything from I have a parking ticket that I can't register for classes, or I have an outstanding library book that again is putting an administrative hold on my record that I can't register and keep going. And the thing that we're finding with these also is Oftentimes they do come with other types of supports like coaching, tutoring, and financial wellness. And combining all those things together really help target and get these students across the finish line. So to wrap up those 4 different models that we talked about. So what we've seen, and to sum it up, is that program design really does matter. When we're developing or revising scholarship programs, we recommend focusing in on 5 core areas. So first, we'll pose these as questions. So who is the program serving? So who's it intended to serve? What are the barriers that this program is specifically aiming to address? What data shows that there is an actual need for this? Second is what kind of wraparound supports are provided. And then looking at what are those supports that are provided prior to enrollment or after enrollment, depending on the type of scholarship. Next, how flexible is the award structure? And does it unintentionally replace other aids? So that's something to keep in mind. How are aids stacked at different institutions? What comes first? What gets applied first to a student's balance? And then what's the flexibility in how a student can use funds? Can they only use it for tuition and fees? Can they use it for housing, books, other things like that? And the next 2, so looking at, can the application and renewal process be streamlined to help reduce barriers? If we create this great scholarship program, however, every year the student has to go through a really burdensome process to reapply, that could prove to be a significant barrier to getting students to keep coming throughout their program. And lastly, how we measure success and use data to improve over time. I think this is key to what we're seeing throughout the model, is that folks are interested in tracking their progress and looking at student outcomes to make sure that they're providing the best resources that they can to their students. And in a second, I'm going to turn it over to 2 of our guest presenters who really have done an amazing job of using data to tell their story and shape programming throughout the life of their scholarship program. So with that, I am so excited to introduce our first guest speaker, Dr. Stephen R. Gonzales, who serves as the Chancellor of the Maricopa Community College District. Dr. Gonzales has more than 27 years of instructional and administrative experience in higher ed. In 2022, he was appointed Chancellor for the Maricopa County Community College District. He previously served as the 8th president of Gateway Community College, which is one of the 10 Maricopa community colleges. He also served as acting Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs and Chief Academic Officer for Central Arizona College in Pinal County. Dr. Gonzales earned his doctorate in educational administration at the top-ranked community college leadership program from the University of Texas at Austin, where his doctoral research focused primarily on the improvement of developmental education. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Stephen Gonzales, Chancellor of the Maricopa Community Colleges, as he highlights the Maricopa Promise Program.
Well,
Over
thank
to
you, Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly, and good morning to everybody. And let me begin by thanking Helios, Paul and team for the opportunity to be here today and for the tremendous support that they have provided over several years to support Maricopa. So as indicated, the Maricopa Community College System is comprised of 10 independently accredited colleges. And so I say that because what I'm about to describe here is really different and exciting for us because it takes a uniform approach. And what was just shared by Kimberly, we at each of our 10 colleges across our system, we probably have a little bit of what everything was just described. And what you're about to hear now is probably a combination of many of the elements that you just heard too. So with that, if we could go into the next slide, please. Since the start of the pandemic, we have seen an uptick on the student needs for financial aid to not only support their tuition and fees, but to provide help while they're attending college for the sort of needs that are related to childcare, rent, mortgages, transportation, etc. So the Maricopa Promise Program provides need-based and tuition support for all 10 colleges to be eligible, students pursuing post-secondary education and certifications. Students will have the flexibility to pursue their program at any of our 10 colleges. And the goal, which we plan to actually hold fast to, is to launch this first Maricopa Promise cohort during this fall semester to benefit both traditional and non-traditional students. Next slide, please. So in order to become a Maricopa Scholar, these are some of the things that you need to do. As expected, you've got to fill out a FAFSA because if you're eligible for financial aid, we want to make sure that you receive those funds that you are entitled to. You've got to be in at least 6 credit hours. You've got to be in a program, an eligible degree or certificate program at any of our 10 colleges. You've got to be a high school grad or have earned a GED and eligible to pay in-state tuition. And you also need to be new to Maricopa. Once you're in a Maricopa Scholar, you need to maintain a 2.0 GPA while you're enrolled in these programs. Next slide, please. So prior to establishing the Maricopa Promise Program, of 5 different Promise programs existed within the Maricopa Community Colleges. Each new program created their own version of MESA's eligibility criteria and specifics based on their partner city's intentions and the college's ability to deliver on metrics. Again, I shared that a lot of these started at the start of the pandemic when communities had dollars related to COVID to support their community members, and they were looking for ways to shore up the support to their community. And they thought that being able to support their higher education opportunities would be a tremendous asset to their communities. So a priority in our strategic plan is the sustaining and scaling of a Promise program across all 10 colleges with utilizing uniform guidelines. In 2022, the Maricopa Community College Foundation secured the American Rescue Plan Act funding from the city of Peoria, the city of Phoenix, in the amounts of $200,000 and $5 million respectively. And the funds were used to establish the Promise programs at Glendale Community College and the Phoenix Promise for eligible Phoenix residents to attend any of the 10 Maricopa community colleges. The Maricopa Promise program consolidates efforts across the system, optimizing funds, streamlines the process for our students and for our employees, of course, and creates a cohesive, uniform experience for all Maricopa Promise program students looking to achieve post-secondary education success. Next slide, please. Clearly, there were some lessons that we learned as a system. We found that our funders preferred a unified approach. That's just making it easier for administration on both ends of our organizations and especially for our students. We found that the cohort model worked really well in helping us to keep track of our students as a group and also helping them feel as if they were part of something larger. With that sort of support, cohort models tend to outperform those in the cohort tend to outperform students who are not associated with a cohort. We found that we needed to create a standard eligibility and criteria across our system for the program as well, so that we could serve many more students. And then we combined the last dollar and a stipend model so that we could administer across the 10 colleges as well. Next slide, please. Here's a little bit of data that I just would like to share. Maricopa Promise program, we intend to support 500 students during this fall semester. We know that once students become aware of this, that this is going to grow drastically. So it's really important for us to partner with our community and organizations like Helios that understand why it's necessary to provide this sort of support. And to date, we've raised $2.4 million to support this program. As I mentioned earlier, students in Promise programs tend to outperform students who are not, especially those involved in some sort of a cohort arrangement. And they have a retention rate of about 70%, which is 15% higher than students that are not. And then the other exciting part about this is that approximately 70% of our Promise program participants are first generation students. And then there's a couple other data points related to the demographics of our students, many of them who are female and are also students of color. And we anticipate a 25% average annual growth in student program participation. So we've got our work cut out for us, which means that we need to be in the fund and fundraising business from here on. So next slide, please. And again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Helios for your support and this opportunity to share our good work.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. We really appreciate getting to hear more about the Promise program and all the great stuff that's happening in the Community College District. So with that, our next speaker serves as the Vice President of Academic Affairs and Student Success Operations and Integrated Planning at Florida International University, where she provides strategic oversight to more than 700 staff members across multiple divisions. Dr. Bridgette Cram also serves as a co-executive director for the Center for Community Impact and Public Purpose, where she focuses partnerships that bridge academia and local, national, and international communities. With a deep commitment to improving student outcomes, Dr. Cram has led major university reorganizations, spearheading FIU's 2025 to 2030 strategic plan, and secured significant grant funding to enhance student success. Under her leadership, FIU has seen remarkable improvements in student success metrics, including a dramatic rise in its four-year graduation rate. She's earned her PhD in public affairs from FIU. Please help me now in welcoming Dr. Bridgette Cram. Dr. Cram, you might be on mute.
While we're waiting for Dr. Cram to come off mute, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please actually put them in our Q&A, our chat box. That way we can make sure that we're answering them when we get to the end of the program. There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry, my Zoom quit as soon as I tried to turn the video back on. But thank you so much for your patience, and thank you so much, Kimberly, for that introduction. My name is Bridgette Cram. I am happy to be here today. The Helios Last Mile program has been absolutely amazing for FIU and for our students. So thank you so much, the Helios Education Foundation, for your support and for having us here today. So the purpose of the Last Mile Scholarship here at FIU was really to scale the efforts that we had seen success with over the past decade. We started our completion scholarship program in 2015, and it's really been amazing to support our students. It also gave us a great opportunity to engage with a program evaluator to review our completion grant initiatives and really make sure we had a strong evaluation plan moving forward. And then, of course, really the main purpose was to support our students through these grants while also supporting them with financial wellness coaching and other holistic wraparound supports. So like I had mentioned a little earlier, we have been awarding completion grants since 2015. We have a lot of offices that engage with us in this process, including the Office of Scholarships, which also houses our financial wellness coaching unit, our Office of Student Success Operations and Success, which leads all of our retention and completion efforts. And then, of course, our enrollment management services team, including our Register of Financial Aid and student financials. And our program is really focused on students in the last year of their studies with about 30 credits remaining. And really the only criteria is that they have to be in academic good standing and eligible to graduate. And for whatever reason they may be at risk of stopping out. And to receive the grants, we have a few different ways that students can do this. They can apply proactively if they know they're facing a challenge. Our Student Success Operations and Success team also reaches out to students that are at risk for dropping out during enrollment cancellation. And then we can also have students referred to this if they apply through our emergency aid process. So we designed, this kind of triangulation of ways that students can reach out to make sure that whether a student knew about the program or didn't know, that they could receive the help they need in the moment that they needed it. In terms of the implementation for our program for Helios, our Office of Scholarships and Financial Wellness Coaching really helped to develop that outreach plan with our student success team to make sure that students could be awarded the completion grants in time, to make those payments that they needed to stay enrolled. We also made sure to be aligned across all of our different enrollment management offices. One of the great conversations that we had during this process was to look at that enrollment cancellation timeline. Were we providing enough support to students during that time? And how could we make that process easier so that students didn't feel that stress if they were looking for ways to fund that gap? And then we also updated internal systems to collect the additional data that we needed to complete the program evaluation. I think one of the really important and great things about this grant was that we had the opportunity to work really closely with Paul Perrault and the Helios team to develop a really strong program evaluation plan. We've always tracked data related to completion grants, but this plan was strengthened by our ability to hire an external evaluator. We actually hired two. We had both a quantitative and qualitative evaluator assist us with this project. I will say, especially with completion grant programs, that qualitative data is really, really important because you're able to hear the student stories and the different reasons why they're needing that additional support in their final semester or two. And I will say, as a result, and because of this program evaluation, we were able to use that data to then apply for a Department of Education FIPSI grant, which we are just closing up in this year. So in terms of support, we supported 795 students. We're really proud to say that 99% of those students have graduated, and another 2 are on track to graduate in 2025. The average grant was about $1,021. And we did see success in terms of our students participating in coaching sessions, tutoring, career development sessions. What I will say is that we do not require it. We have financial wellness coaching as a really strong support system. But if a student comes to us, meets the basic criteria, and has a need, we do not disqualify students from receiving those grant dollars if they don't participate in one of the coaching sessions. But as you can see, a lot of the students do opt into those opportunities because they do find it really important. And this is really a summary of the quantitative, evaluation. We did matched pairs analysis, looked at data from over 94,000 students. And you can see here, there was a difference in terms of the graduation rate of the students that did receive this completion grant compared to those that did not. And I will say the qualitative data, highlighted that as well, that without these dollars, there were a number of students that would have needed to enroll in fewer hours, or delay their graduation. And we know that if students stop out or delay, the chances of them being able to complete are much smaller. And just, a few notes here in terms of what we learned. I think it's really important to focus on the why. We really care deeply about our students. I know everyone on this call cares really, a lot about the students. And these are opportunities to really redesign infrastructure and processes to put the student at the forefront. I will also say iteration is really important. We've had these grants for over 10 years and we've made changes to make sure that we're supporting students in the best way possible. And of course, when you're looking for funding, focusing on an idea that you already have data on, finding ways to tweak it or make it better really helps to strengthen that proposal. And then finally, really creating a team that spans the university. I shared a lot about our partners earlier, but making sure that you're using this opportunity to create those connections to improve processes, not only helps you be successful in the completion grant initiative or other scholarship initiative, but really improves it, for the students as well. Sustainability, making sure you have a plan for sustainability once the grant ends is really important to think about. Before you actually start the program, so you can make sure that there's not a gap in services. And then, this is for me, I love assessment. I started out in assessment, but making sure that you're investing in, research training and outcomes assessment training for your staff helps you to be prepared when funders are looking for opportunities, to include evaluation as part of, your initiative. But that's all I have for today. And again, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cram. I think both of these are such great examples of what we were trying to demonstrate in the brief, and not only how you can stick to one type of model, but also mix and match where you need to help best support your students. So just want to continue to recommend folks put questions in the chat. And next up, I'd like to bring back Helios President and CEO Paul Luna. Paul will interview two special guests who share with us their perspective on how the scholarships they were awarded shaped their education journey. So over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate that. And let me extend our thanks to our great special guest, Chancellor Gonzales and Dr. Cram for sharing details about these particular programs. But at Helios, we always try to remain grounded, our board, our staff, our team, on the focus being the students and student success. So we wanted to make sure as part of this webinar to not only hear from our partners, but also to hear from students who have experienced these scholarship opportunities directly. So we're really excited to share with you and to have special guests joining us today, recipients of the Phoenix Promise Program, which is under the auspices of the America Promise Program that the Chancellor spoke about, and then Dr. Cram's articulation of the Helios Last Mile Scholarship Program at FIU. So joining us now is Jay Vasquez Hidalgo, who is a senior at South Mountain Community College here in Phoenix, majoring in behavioral sciences. Jay has already received and earned her AA degree and is pursuing her bachelor degree and is expected to graduate next summer and plans to pursue graduate studies with a long-term goal of becoming a college president, which we're very excited about. And also with us today is Eduardo Mesa, who we should congratulate him because he has already earned his bachelor's degree in computer science from Florida International University. He earned that this past December, and he will begin working at a data and technology solutions firm this fall. So we want to welcome both Eduardo and Jay with us today to hear a little bit more about their experiences with these programs, these scholarship programs. So I'm going to start with Jay, but the first question is going to be the same to both of them. So Jay, we wanted to ask if you might just tell us why you applied for the Phoenix Promise Program, and can you share your experience with the scholarship program itself? And if you could highlight, what was it about the scholarship program that made a difference for you?
Now, first off, thank you so much for having me. One of the reasons why I applied was first off, how easy it was for the application process. I got an email inside my student inbox talking about what eligibility that I would need. And being a GED recipient, I felt like I would have been a good candidate. So I applied. After a couple of months of waiting, I got another email just congratulating me, and I felt such a big sense of relief and excitement. It was really helpful just to know that I needed the support and that was enough. Because of the scholarship, I was able to take full advantage of the services and get to and from my internships, but also pay any extra textbook fees, and also just take advantage of the support available.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Jay. So Eduardo, tell us why you applied for the Helios Last Mile Scholarship Program at FIU. Share your experience with the program, and in particular, especially given that you earned that degree, how the scholarship program made a difference in your education journey.
Yeah, so when I was in college, my mom lost her job, which put a financial stress on my family. And so I started working to help alleviate that. And when I was approaching my last semester, I wanted to focus on getting an actual good job for when I graduated. And I realized I didn't have the time to, go to school and do this and do that and do all these different things. And my mom had always told me, oh, you should apply to scholarships, If you work 2 hours on an essay or an application for a scholarship, and they give you $1,000, you just made $500 an hour, right? And so I was going through FIU's scholarship network. I found this one. I fit all the qualifications and I applied. I got it, and helped give me time to do ultimately what I went to college for, which was to graduate and then find an opportunity after college. And it did that. I secured a contract with a good company, and it all worked out thanks to imparting the scholarship.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. And so I'm going to ask a question and ask both of you if you might kind of share your perspective on this. So from your experience, what is the most important thing that students need from a scholarship programs, obviously besides paying the tuition? And what do you think actually makes a scholarship truly innovative and helpful to students who are trying to succeed? So Eduardo, why don't you take that first, and then we'll go to Jay.
Well, I think money is time, and time gives you freedom to do things other than just school, because now it's just not enough to get your degree. You need to do extracurriculars, you need to do internships, you need to do all these additional things to really succeed. And if you just get your degree, it's like no longer enough. So having just that extra support to do all these extra things, I think, is what helps a student be successful. And I think if a student is successful, then the scholarship behind them is successful.
Absolutely. Jay, would you share your thoughts?
Yeah, I can only echo what Eduardo has said. I feel the exact same way. I feel like it's important to support students directly and letting them know about what is professional development, what career readiness also would look like, and how to apply that in their future. And then as well as financial wellness, I think is also important, not only because of the student, but as well as the generations to come. You can only pass on knowledge and just keep pushing it forward.
So one of the things we like to say at Helios is we love to hear every individual's sort of education story. We think there's very grounding information. There's a way that we all kind of can resonate in a story. So I know we would love to spend a lot of time hearing more of your stories, but we can't do that today. So I want to ask a couple of other just, quick questions to kind of draw out a little bit more from both of you. Some are quick, some might be a little longer, but here's just some questions for you. So to both of you, um, who was the first person you called or told when you learned that you received the scholarship? Jay?
I called my mom. While I was working, I'm a career peer coach at my campus. So I first told my boss, and then I called my mom.
And Eduardo?
I definitely called my mom first, and I was like, "You're right," because
And-
I never, invested that much into scholarships. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of a pain. It's a hassle to apply all this stuff. But I think it's definitely worth it, because it takes, I think, a little bit of humility to just go and be like, yeah, I should just apply for this.
Yeah. That's as a dad, we still understand the first person our children call is mom, and there's something very grounding in that. So I'm glad to hear that. So on the webinar today, as you probably heard earlier, we have a number of individuals who are here to listen to your stories, learn a bit more about innovative scholarships and such. So you have an opportunity to share with them directly. So if you had to give one piece of advice to scholarship providers who are designing programs or considering supporting and funding these programs, what would that be? So Eduardo, you start with that one, please.
I think having some GPA requirement, having some maybe some sort of ambition that they want to do some extracurricular activity is good, so that you can invest in someone who's actually putting in that effort. It's also good to also know at the same time that life is difficult and complicated, and that might not be everything, but it's a good standard to just sort of set that is easy to meet, and promises more from that person in the future.
Yeah, well said. Jay?
I think for me, just offering I think more scholarships for students from different backgrounds. So I know being a career peer coach, one of the services we provide is scholarship searching. So a lot of times it's kind of hard to find scholarships for DOC recipients or students who are undocumented or international students. So just making sure that if students who do come from these different backgrounds, that they also get that level of support that they need.
Mhm. Well said. So another fast-paced question. So one word. What's the first word that comes to your mind when you think about how this scholarship changed your life? Jay, you first.
I will say stress-free. I know that's two words, but stress.
We'll take that. Eduardo?
Stability.
Stability. Okay. So I'm going to ask you one last question. I know I'm catching you a bit by surprise, so I'll acknowledge that. But I think we have a little time for one more question. So what I want to ask, if you would, is each of you have received scholarships. And and for many of us who relied on scholarships to be able to support our educational journey and activities and degree completion, you don't often get a chance to say thank you to the actual individuals who provided that scholarship. And so, not suggesting that those individuals necessarily are here today, but from a student perspective and as someone who has benefited from a scholarship, what would you say to that person, that organization, that entity that provided the scholarship support that enabled you to receive the scholarship and to succeed in your education journey? Eduardo, please, what would you say to those individuals that provided the scholarship?
Well, the main scholarship I depended on in college was a Bright Futures,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Florida. So I'd say thank you to the people of Florida for helping me, you know, finish my education, go on beyond high school, and be able to actually afford it.
It's a great message for those of us who do work in Florida. The Bright Future Scholarship is a grounding, probably a gold standard for providing scholarship support to students and a commitment of the state of Florida to support their students. Something I know we're working real hard to advocate and champion in Arizona. Jay, what would you say?
The scholarship I got was the Phoenix Promise. So I think what I would first off is say thank you for the support that was offered, especially because without the scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to represent my peers at the governing board meetings and we secure electronic equity. And as well as I was able to focus more on my studies, which let me become graduation speaker. So thank you so much. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of it without you.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this portion by just saying on behalf of Helios, on behalf of, I think, everybody is participating in this webinar today, to both of you, thank you for your willingness to join us and share your story, your personal story, and congratulations to you both for your success and what we know will be continued success now into the future. And we have high hopes for your future college presidency, Jay, and your success, Eduardo, in business, and look forward to hearing more as your journeys continue. So with that, I'd like to turn the program back over to Paul Perrault to open it up for some questions and answers from the webinar audience. So Paul?
Thank you, Paul. We have some really great questions coming in, so let's get started. What we're going to do is try to answer as many questions as possible. And for those that we can't get to, we'll figure out a way to follow up with participants as well. I wanted to start out with this first question, and really kind of, I was going to ask the Chancellor this one, but anyone that would want to jump in, please jump in as well. But the question comes from Matt, Chancellor, and it's, should requiring the FAFSA application be a requirement for future scholarships when financial need is not a qualification for recipients? So basically, should you require the FAFSA if if financial need is not a qualification?
Well, again, the hope there is that, by completing the FAFSA, that they would possibly get the need that's available to them based on their economic background. I would share too that we have a whole host of other programs in addition to the Maricopa Promise program that would help students that may not have the financial need, that may have other interests. Maybe they're pursuing a specific degree, maybe they've graduated from a specific high school. Maybe they've got a specific ethnic background that may be supported by that. So there's more than just this method of securing financial aid. As you saw in the presentation, our goal was to start off with 500. We've got thousands upon thousands of students that are receiving financial aid from us or financial support in other methods.
Perfect, thank you. Dr. Cram, wanted to ask you this one. I had a great question. How did you track the results, such as tutoring, events, and coaching sessions? So I think people are really trying to understand metrics around scholarships. And so that question, how did you track those results?
So we used our just internal advising system that we have connected to PantherSoft to document all of those different interactions. Our financial wellness coaches had an additional kind of layer of tracking as they met with students. They made notes of that, but we were able to pull all of those data points from our internal system, right, that helps students schedule those different appointments.
Perfect, thank you. Some of the questions that have been coming through are really kind of what do we see in the future? And so, Paul, I'm going to ask you this question. What do you see as the biggest shift or trend in the world of scholarship philanthropy over the next 5 to 10 years? So what can people expect?
Yeah. That's a great question. And obviously I'm not going to suggest I have the definitive answer, but a couple things that come to mind are twofold. One is I think the acknowledgement and recognition that our students, as they move from high school into some type of education after high school, post-secondary education, there are many more multiple pathways with which our students are following. And many are sort of aligned industry licenses or certificates leading to 2-year and 4-year degrees. So the pathways being different and multifaceted, I think means that our scholarship support of students needs to align with those student interests and how they're pursuing their education after high school, and to begin to almost be aligned individually to that of the student, right? The individual alignment of what that student's pathway to be, and to be flexible and supportive, and these wraparound services along the full continuum in the way students are pursuing. I think the other thing is data and results, right? I think you can't ignore that individuals that support scholarships, you want to make sure that the results are being delivered, right? So building the case through data, through strong practices that we know will lead to the type of outcomes I think is going to become more and more important as we see scholarships evolve over time. As just two ways, yeah.
Thank you, Paul. A couple of questions were very similar, and I'm going to read this one. I think from the institutional approach, Dr. Gonzales, Dr. Cram, you can both talk about these. These are impressive results. Thank you for sharing. It sounds like the funding is provided directly to colleges rather than the students. Would you recommend this approach for funders, especially in the context of emergency scholarships, to help prevent award displacement or unintended tax implications for students?
I'll answer that, Paul. I recommend it. It goes back to what Paul Luna just said about accountability. We're finding that more and more funders want to ensure that there's higher levels of accountability. The other part about that too is that some may, I'll just use a test run approach on us to say some are a little more explicit than others, as funders to say, you may be asking for 3 million, but we're going to support you at the million mark, and if you do well and you're able to come back and demonstrate that you've met your outcomes that you're proposing here, then we'll talk about additional funding afterwards. We appreciate that and really understand that support. So I think that's why it's important that we hold on to those and maintain those for the students.
Okay.
And I would agree with that. If evaluation, right, and accountability is important to the funder, awarding right the funds directly to the institution is the way to be able to truly document that. However, right, if your goal is just to fund students and get the funds out there quickly, right, then dispersing to the students can work as well. I think it ultimately, has to align with the funder's goals.
Okay. Another one that's come across a couple times, and this can be, I would say, Dr. Cram, Dr. Gonzales, and Paul, I'd love you to chime in on this as well, is what advice would you give to other institutions or funders looking to pilot new scholarship program models?
I'll defer to the experts first.
Well, I would say to have an absolute purpose around it. The more that you can fine tune its purpose and perhaps even its population that you intend to serve, the easier it becomes to go after specific funders. If we're too broad, too general, sometimes it's hard to get funders to support that. There are funders who might support only health occupation type programs. There might be funders who only support STEM programs. There might be funders who only support first generation students. And so you've got to find a way that's going to give you as much bang as for your buck in terms of the work that's going to go into creating this program.
And I would just add from an infrastructure perspective, making sure that all of those important offices are aligned so that you can show to the funder that you're able to efficiently, effectively award those dollars to students as soon as possible it has been really important for us as well.
And I think I'll come at it from a philanthropic perspective in terms of the leaning into the idea of collaboration and partnership. and to suggest that when possible, let's partner together as opposed to each individual funder seeking their own unique scholarship program, which then multiplies the number of accountabilities that the colleges and universities need to adhere to. So to the extent that we as the philanthropic community can find alignment and support, especially in scholarship programs that we know are successful, partner together, bring our resources together, and have greater impact with that approach.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Dr. Cram and Dr. Gonzales. Jay and Eduardo, wanted to actually end the last question with you. So you have have done it, been successful, gone through the programs. Kind of wanted to circle back and kind of what Paul was talking about again. If you had, what's your one takeaway about the scholarships that really made it successful for you that everybody in this audience should take away?
I think specifically for this scholarship, it was its accessibility, that it was very easy to apply to and straightforward with the, qualifications you needed. Because sometimes scholarships can be more general and you don't really know if you fit into what they want. But it was very straightforward. You need to be this, this, and this. And that's why I applied.
Thank you, Eduardo.
I feel the same way. The accessibility is extremely important. And so the fact that I was able just to put what eligibility that I qualified for made everything a lot easier. And I also think it helped that I also work inside of career services. So I got to take full advantage of the support that I needed.
Fantastic. And with that, let me close us out. On behalf of Helios Education Foundation, I want to thank Dr. Bridgette Cram at Florida International University and Dr. Stephen Gonzales, Chancellor for Maricopa Community Colleges, for joining us today. I want to also thank our two scholarship recipients, Jay and Eduardo, for sharing their student perspectives. You guys were fantastic and really loved having you on the webinar today. And finally, thanks to all of you for joining us today. Today's conversation reinforced that scholarships are most effective when they combine financial support with the personal, academic, and career guidance students need to succeed. We hope that you'll continue this conversation in your own communities. To help, we're sharing an advanced copy of our new research brief. You can find the link in the chat now. You will also receive an emailed copy later today, along with a recording of today's webinar. Again, thank you. Thank you again, and I hope you will take a quick survey that will populate on your screen when the webinar closes. Enjoy the rest of your day.